Hello, my name's Adam Atwell, Cloud Solutions Architect here at Kite Technology Group. I spend most of my time helping folks adopt cloud solutions, and more specifically, a lot of time helping folks adopt Microsoft Cloud Solutions. Today, I'm going to be overviewing one of the many Microsoft 365 applications called Microsoft Lists. Microsoft Lists is an application that allows you to help track, manage, and really do logistics and planning around your own individual items that you're trying to organize, as well as things that you might want to share inside of your various teams. And so Microsoft Lists originated as a piece of SharePoint, the intelligent intranet that Microsoft has built into their backend. Most folks don't even kind of know that SharePoint's there or how it works. They just know that maybe they interact with files and folders. But Microsoft saw this need for organizing information inside of SharePoint and has really kind of evolved this experience of interacting with SharePoint lists to its own standalone app. And they've put some time into trying to make it easier and really more approachable for end users to make it simple to adopt. So we're going to cover what that looks like today and some basic starting points on how you might get going. So here we go. So first and foremost, how do you get to lists? You can see here in this demo tenant that I've just come in here to the Microsoft 365 homepage at office.com. You can also go to portal.office.com to get here. When you land here, you'll be presented with the app launcher in the upper left-hand corner here. And so you can see these are the various different Microsoft 365 apps. Now I've already actually pinned this. I'll unpin it for this visual here so you can see. But if I hadn't found lists at least one time and pinned it to the app launcher, I could find it by clicking this all apps. So we'll do that, and then you can see there's lists in the list of Microsoft 365 apps. I'll go ahead and click to pin it to launcher. And now in the future, when I click on the launcher, it's already there. So from here, I'll go ahead and dive in and click on the lists. You'll notice that even though I'm in the web application here, it is telling me, hey, a new version of the List desktop app is available. Click install to get the latest experience. And so Microsoft gives you the ability not just to interact with this in the browser, but you can also install this in a local web application or progressive web app format. And so I'll click install again, and you'll notice that now here on the other screen, I'll pull it over, and you can see I also have the Microsoft Lists app. If you come down here, I'm on a Mac, and you can see that I do have the Microsoft Lists app down here available to me, and that'll be there for later. And so I can interact with lists in the desktop app or in the web, whatever my preference is. So when you come into lists for the first time, you are presented with this welcome screen. For now, we're going to skip that since we're going to go over how to use lists here today live in this video. So we're just going to start off by reviewing creating a new list here from scratch. So you'll notice that you're presented with this nice clean templates option, as well as a blank list or one from Excel. So we're going to look at some of the pre-existing templates and figure out how we might be able to use one of those. Of course, lots of different things you can see here we could start with, whether it's an issue tracker for the team, event or a content planning for a schedule, or maybe work progress tracker for specific initiatives you have inside your departments. I'm going to go ahead and choose the work progress tracker. And I'll note here that there's a little view here on what the template covers and has in terms of its different column sets and things we can use as a part of building this list out. And so great, this is a work item. And if we scroll over a little bit, we can see the other columns that it has predefined, and that's great. You can also scroll up or down here, and you can browse the other predefined templates. This is a really great way to get started if you're new to lists, because you don't have to understand how these columns get built all the way. And I'll show you a little bit about that here as we unpack it. So I'm going to take the work progress tracker template, and I'll say use template. Now you'll see that we're presented with the naming and description fields here. So I'm going to go ahead and just, this is a demo for how to use lists. Awesome. And just a basic work progress tracker, that's fine. And then we can choose a color. Great, that's purple. And down here, you could choose an icon if you'd like. And then you have an option to choose where to save this. You'll notice that there's options of My Lists or sites that are a part of Microsoft 365, groups, and SharePoint sites that I'm a member of. And so I'll go ahead and just save this one in particular to My Lists, and I'll click Create. Now you'll see that it does create in the background this work progress tracker, and we have all these different columns that it's gone ahead and added for us. Now, because we haven't added any data to this, I'm going to go ahead and just start to add data. It's really easy to actually click on the Edit in Grid View option, although there are some other options up top here. The new option is one that kind of goes through a bit of a wizard, and you'll notice here that it does show us each of the columns that we have across the top here, and it does tell us kind of what type of column it is and how it's set up and what kind of field it is. So for this first one, it's just a simple text description, and so we'll go ahead and call this let's just say annual budget analysis. Great. And this is just a review of the budget to actual progress. Great. And then you can see here that there's a category drop down here. Now these are categories that we've adopted from the predefined template of work progress tracker. And so you can go through and edit these. We'll show how to do that after we filled one out. So we'll say, well, this one is really a part of our planning, and that's fine. You can also add a new choice on demand. So if we wanted to say financial, and we could say add, that's great. And then if you come in here, you can now see that, sorry, I didn't hit the right button. Hit financial, hit enter, and now it does create a new set there for the financial category. That's great. And then of course there's a progress you can set here. So you could say this is in progress. We can define a priority, it's high priority, and then when do we want this to be started? Well, let's say last week. And then, of course, we want this to be done by the end of this week. You'll drop down here and you can see that we can actually assign this to different people. I'll go ahead and click in here and start to type. I want to assign this to Megan, who is actually the demo user that I'm using right now. That's great. And if there was anybody else, let's say Adele, we wanted her help with it, that's great as well. And then we could add some notes in here and just say, please be sure to review docs on SharePoint. And then you could come down here and add attachments if need be from the local environment. We'll click Save. And now you can see here we've gone ahead and we've actually filled out, our first item for the list. Now, if I wanted to come back in here, I could hit Edit in Grid View. And when you do that, you can see you get a little bit of a better visual experience on how you might come through here and edit these columns. Now, I just double clicked in here. I can take away the financial. I can say, okay, sure. You can come down here and do add, second item here. Second review of budget. That's great, and hit enter. You can also navigate this with your keyboard commands. I'm just using the keys on the keyboard to navigate this. You can hit enter, and sometimes folks find that this is a quicker way to move around, and rather than the other direction of going through and adding things that route. So that's a little bit of how you might add something to the list. And again, this is just one of the predefined templates. And so I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way and just kind of show you what, something that has some data in it could look like. This is another work progress tracker for something that we were demoing here for internal standards rollouts. And I put this together, and you can see this is kind of what it looks like after it's been filled out somewhere, right? And so from here, you could go ahead and you could share this list out to other folks in your organization. So let's say I wanted to include Jason in this, right? That's great. And I could go ahead and hit send, and then Jason would get this, and he can go ahead and participate in this as well. In addition to that, let's say that maybe for this column set here of the rollout phase, let's say I want to add another option, right? If you go into column settings, you can edit it, and you can add more choices here. We already have the alpha, beta, engineering, Kite Tech. We could say add a choice, right? We could call this maybe the pre-alpha, and come in here and give it a little color. That's fine. And then, you can see here that there are different options here. We could, it could be a single line of text, a multiple line of text. These are the type of columns data that we're using. And for this one, it's actually a choice. So we'll click save here. After we've done that, we have edited this rollout phase. And so if we actually came in here and we wanted to edit this in grid view, we could see now that we have the option of the pre-alpha, and I could add that in and exit grid view, and it would go ahead and save that change. So that's a pretty easy way that you can go through here and sort and add different aspects of choices for things you might organize here inside of this data. In addition to that, you can sort just like you can in any spreadsheet by different columns. You can also add filters, right? So let's say that I wanted to come in here and say, just maybe see only the beta stuff. So let's do that. We can roll that out and see. Okay, that's great. That's a good view. And then maybe let's say that in addition to all of this information, I do want to add a column that maybe says, where are we at in terms of, not just the due date, but, the actual completion date, right? So the date and time, and I can call this completion date. And then added, date and description. So this is actually, when did this really get done? That's great. And then, you could include time if you want. Most of the time, just date and time is sufficient. And then you can hit save, do that. And then you'll notice it does format it and add it here. Now, maybe I could move this over here because I like it better, here in this actual order. So that shows you a little bit of how maybe you could go in and edit and manipulate things. Now, that's a lot of information. So let's say though that instead of coming in here and adding this all manually, let's say you actually already had an existing list that you might want to work with and bring in here. So if you actually go back to the lists home here, and we'll just do that from this side. We'll go to lists home. You can see you also have the ability to choose to create a new list from an Excel document. And so I'll come over here to Excel, and it does ask me here, hey, do you have anything that's already here? Sure, we do. Well, we have all these different other pieces of data. So I'll go ahead and just grab this one piece of data. Now in here, it actually does show me, hey, we have lots of different data in this already. What kind of data is it when we bring it in? Is it a single line of text? Is it multiple lines of text? Of course, we do want to just have a single line here for this value. These are a lot of text values. They do have text and number values as well. And then you can also see if we did have multiple sheets, they would show up here as well. So we can scroll over just for a little bit of validation, and we can see, yep, that's all the stuff. That looks great. And then if you needed to, you could actually omit something. So looking here at this social, maybe we don't want to, import this, and maybe we don't want to import, I don't know, the credit card number, right? But we can have maybe the card type or the bank account number, and then go ahead and hit next. And then this is just, again, the same choice of where do you want to import it to, where do you want to save it to. In this case, rather than saving it to my list, I'll go ahead and add this to the business development site, and I will show it in the navigation, and I'll hit create. So now in a moment, you're going to see that this data got imported in, and we do see, here are the titles, here are the names, there's the bank account number. We did drop a few pieces of information off, so you don't see those anymore. And then we can add other column sets that make sense based on what we're doing. So we could, do a yes or no column that says, has this been updated? ? And, go ahead and come in here and say, let's just say edit in grid view. And if I was running through this, we could say, yep, that's great, awesome. And that's, a quick visual indicator of, yes, this got done. And so this is just another way that you can import these lists in here. We have covered now how to go ahead and create a new list, as well as how to, import from a template, as well as import in from an existing Excel document. In addition to that, you can even set up different automations. Like, let's say that you wanted to go ahead and create a rule that said, well, hey, whenever this is updated, maybe I want to notify someone when a column changes or when an item is deleted, right? And so you come in here, you could say when a column changes. I could actually choose which column, right? And so was it updated? Yes, I do want to know that. And I could come in here and say, go ahead and send that to me at adam@kitetechgroup.com. That's great. And hit enter. Now, of course, I'm not actually in this tenant. So Megan B, I don't know, there she is. Megan B, we can say, all right, go ahead and add it. This is a demo tenant. And so whenever the updated column changes, go ahead and send Megan an email, which is great. And I can say, leave this notification on. Now that that rule's in there, if the updated column does get a change, Megan will get an email of said change, notifying her of that. And so I'll go ahead and exit the grid view. You can see we went ahead and added those things. In addition to editing and updates and importing and creating new lists, I did also mention that you can share and collaborate on these things. And so I did want to point out here what that looks like. If we go back to the lists homepage for a moment, we can see a couple of the lists that we've made, as well as where we've created them in. And so you can see there's my lists, and then there's business development. These are just different locations where we've created these. You can also favorite these from here, so you can easily get back to them. And then you'll also note that these are even available in SharePoint and Teams. And so I'll go ahead and come in here. I'll go to the business development homepage and refresh that. Now you'll notice we did create, if you look here, a couple of different lists for this demo. And one of them specifically was called Issue Tracker. The other was called Expense Tracker. Expense Tracker I had created a little bit earlier today, but the Issue Tracker, we did say, go ahead and add that to the SharePoint site. And so you will see here, there's a link to it on the SharePoint site right here in the Issue Tracker section. And so from here, we could actually edit things and go ahead and add them. This is one way that a group might interact with this inside of the business development team. In addition to that, you can also make this list available inside of Teams. And so you can see here, this happens to be the expense tracker. But if you come up to any channel inside of a Teams group, you can click on the word lists and you can say, hey, add an existing list that we have. And it does actually see these different lists. Now, this one is in my personal files. This one is actually inside of the SharePoint site for all of the business development team. And so I'll go ahead and click on the issue tracker one. And you can see here, we don't have anything in this example yet, but I'll just say tests. That's great. And I'll set a priority on this to be high, and we'll assign this out to Megan. That's great. And I'll exit grid view. Now you can see that we did add from the SharePoint site, right? And this is the issue tracker. If I come in here and I look, this is also updated over here. Now, you know, we're looking at the same exact list in 3 locations: in lists in my browser. I'll move that over a little bit. We can also see it in SharePoint. There, the exact same one. And then lastly, in Teams, right? I also mentioned earlier that we have the ability to actually see and save the Lists app on your local environment. And so you can see that those same exact lists are available inside of a full-blown desktop application. And so I could come right in here and add it there as well. Or I could remove that item. And so I'd say delete it. That's great stuff. So that's a little bit about the Microsoft Lists. I know we covered a lot of information there, but in summary, Microsoft Lists is just one other application that you can go in and create lists that you can share out with your team or organize your own stuff. Some practical implementation use cases for this might be, you know, for finance tracking, for creating tickets or tasks inside of projects that maybe you're working through or on inside of your teams. Sometimes folks like to create new lists around onboarding new employees or tracking maybe expenses or ways that you're managing a schedule of events, those kinds of things. So there's really an endless amount of things that you can track inside of there. There's also so many other options around conditional formatting and ways that you can display that data visually and make it easy to use and see and interact with. Lastly, the one experience I couldn't share here easily is the mobile experience on your iOS or Android devices. And Lists is also available on those platforms, so you can see and interact with this same data there. So that's a little bit about Microsoft Lists. The last thing that I'll say is that, you know, if you're already a client of ours, you can reach out to our help desk team and ask if you have any other information on you know, that you'd like to get more information about on Lists or any of the other Microsoft apps. You can also look at us online on any of our socials, or, you know, at kitetechgroup.com, or email us at engage@kitetechgroup.com for more information. Thanks so much for your time here, and I hope the information adds some value to your day. Take care.